Welcome to the first real episode of the SummerAcademy. This one, about issue tracking, has the number 2.1.1. So let's go about it. Issue tracking literally means that we are recording every possible bug in a system to track it and to have a clear and defined process. There are specific benefits. You will never miss an issue, obviously. You get lots of insights. It helps you with release planning, team planning, overall quality assessment of your product, and lots of more. In reality now we see that a lot of times it doesn't work. Number one, the issue report quality is a major problem. Another thing is the bureaucracy that comes with this. And the last one is that actually there are so many issue reports that the project simply doesn't know where to start. So let us see how we can actually address these problems. The first thing that is very important is process first. So define your process before you search for a tool or do anything else. Define a clear process. And the second important thing is stick to the process. Yeah, you can change the process from time to time. Make sure you inform everybody about this, but stick to the process and help people that do not adhere to the process to align themselves to the process. With the right process in place, we can now search for a tool to do it. And you can start very easy. You can start with a very small little spreadsheet. There are also open source tools, and there are professional or tools to be paid for. There's a wide variety of it, and they all have their pros and cons. So that is way beyond this video to give you a deep insight in that one. But after you defined your process, you can go hunt for the right tool to manage your issues. Coming to the main aspect of issue reporting, the issue report itself. So one of the aspects is, whenever you can, prefer fully or partly automatic data collection versus a manual data collection. Number one, less effort for the user, less effort for the reporter. And number two, the data quality is simply better because you know where the data comes from, and it's always repeatable in that regard. Another thing that you need to train your reporters is that the bug should be reproducible. That is the main thing that you have to get out of the issue report. And there is a nice little way to follow, a nice little idea to follow, and it's called SSCCE. It should be short, that's the first S. It should be self-contained. It should be correct and compilable. And it should have an example that I can follow to reproduce. Yeah, the example is a good way for me as a developer to reproduce the issue at hand. So SSCCE, you can also find a bit of a longer, so to say, explanation about this in the web, and I will list the resources below. Now, which fields do we really need in such an issue report? And we made a very down-to-earth, a very stripped-down example on the right side here. We only have a title, severity, affected stakeholders, how to reproduce it, and the environment that you actually use to see it. And you might want to add more fields depending on the project you have there, but make sure you are really limiting the amount of fields that need to be filled in, so that issuing such a report is actually not like a day of work, but can be done very easily. And as I said, prefer automatic data collection. Another thing that is quite interesting is the word or the field severity. Because if you ask the reporter, obviously the severity will be very high, because in the subjective view of the reporter, the problems I see are the most important problems on the planet. So maybe you want to exchange the severity field that is kind of reported by the individual person with something that is a bit more computer sciencey. And how this might work is actually the topic of the next slide. So here's our suggestion regarding Heuristic to calculate the severity dynamically. So the idea is that you have certain qualifiers and certain topics, and you're asking the reporter to give you some feedback on these, and then you assign weighting on these. So for example, if there is safety, so the health or the life of somebody is endangered, highest priority. Second is security, then comes data loss, availability. And what you see here is that you can actually assign the weights also dynamically, so 50 per hour downtime in the availability, for example. And then you have qualifiers where you say, hey, what is the estimated amount of affected users? Are VIPs affected? And then you are doing qualifiers on this. And you could also, as a qualifier, introduce the age of the issue. So over time, if the issue is not addressed, was not triaged and not decided upon, it gets more and more important so that you don't acquire a lot of issues that you don't make a decision about. You should make decisions, and if the decision is hard, at least it is a decision. And with this, you get a dynamic severity that you can use in the process to sort and define which ones to triage and make decisions about. Obviously, we can spend hours on issue tracking and issue management, but we wanted to give you a few good ideas on how to move on with your own one. Also, make sure to have a look on the blog article that we have that adds a few more aspects and also gives you more resources on how to move forward with issue tracking. Tomorrow we will talk about Google, Stack Overflow, and how to make the most out of these kind of resources. Until then, maybe you want to run a quick scan of your code in DeepCode.ai. See you!